John Alden was born in England in 1598. He was a crew member of the historic 1620 voyage of the Mayflower, which brought the English settlers, commonly known as Pilgrims, to Plymouth Colony in Massachusetts. He was hired in Southampton, England, as the ship's cooper, responsible for maintaining the ship's barrels. He was a member of the ship's crew and not a settler, yet he decided to remain in Plymouth Colony when the Mayflower returned to England. The Mayflower departed Plymouth, England, on September 6th, 1620. The 100-foot ship and aboard 102 passengers and a crew of about 20 to 30 in extremely cramped conditions. A lack of proper rations and unsanitary conditions for months caused illnesses that eventually proved fatal for many, particularly to women and children. There were 2 deaths during the ocean crossing, a crew member and a passenger. The ship spotted Cape Cod on November 9th, 1620, after about 2 months at sea. Their original destination had been the mouth of the Hudson River, which was then part of the colony of Virginia. Captain Jones made an attempt to round the southern end of Cape Cod, but he lacked an adequate chart of the area known as Pollock's Rip, and the strong currents and dangerous shores there focused him to turn back. Jones determined that the colonists would have to disembark and settle in New England rather than the Hudson River due to widespread illnesses aboard ship and dwindling supplies. On November 9th, 1620, after about 3 months at sea, including a month of delays in England, they spotted land, which was the Cape Cod hook, now called Provincetown Harbor. After several days of trying to sail south to their planned destination of the colony in Virginia, strong winter seas forced them to return to the harbor at Cape Cod Hook, where they anchored on November 21st, 1620. The Mayflower Compact was signed that day. The passengers of the Mayflower argued that they had been freed from their forced religion to the Virginia Company and could now choose their own governance because the contract was filed by the Mayflower not getting to Virginia. John was among the signers of the Mayflower Compact, being the first legal document in the New World. The exact date of John Alden's marriage to Priscilla Mullins was not noted in colonial records. According to the Pilgrim Society, it was likely in 1622, as Priscilla Mullins is not listed separately in the 1623 division of land. It was either the second or third marriage to take place in the new colony. The marriage of the 2 young colonists has been widely depicted in art and literature, primarily due to the extraordinary popularity of Henry Wadsworth Longfellow's narrative poem, The Courtship of Miles Standish. Published in 1858, the fictionalized story tells a love triangle involving John Alden, Priscilla Mullins, and Miles Standish, the captain of the colony's militia. The book sold 10,000 copies in London in a single day. In the United States, the story brought the Pilgrims to the forefront of American culture, contributing to the establishment of a national Thanksgiving holiday in 1863. The book made John and Priscilla Alden celebrated figures in American popular culture. In 1626, the colony's financial backers in London, known as the Merchant Adventurers, disbanded. This left the colonists with no means of settling their significant debts to those who had funded the effort. 8 of the Plymouth colonists, including John Alden, agreed to collectively assume or undertake the debt in exchange for a monopoly on the fur trade from the colony. These men, who averted financial ruin for the colony, became known as the Undertakers. This agreement to grant the Undertakers a monopoly was signed by the 37 freemen of Plymouth Colony. The fact that Alden was among the Undertakers is indicative of his growing stature in the colony. In 1634, a man named John Hawking from New Hampshire interloped on the fur trade, provoking a confrontation between him and traders from Plymouth Colony at Kennebec. Hawking shot a Plymouth colonist named Moses Talbot, and in turn, a Plymouth man shot Hawking. When the Plymouth traders arrived by boat at Boston, authorities there decided to imprison John Alden, who was aboard the Plymouth vessel. Even though he had not been present during the violence, it was only through the intervention of William Bradford that Alden was eventually released. Alden built their first small house in 1628 in what is now Duxbury. They were required to travel to Plymouth every Sunday for Sabbath services 10 miles away. They lived seasonally on their Duxbury farm for the first few years, staying in Plymouth during the winter to avoid long travels in harsh weather. In 1632, Alden was one of several men who petitioned the colony to have Duxbury set off as a separate church parish with their own minister. This would allow those with Duxbury grants to reside on their farms year-round. William Bradford and other colonial officials were reluctant to break apart the church in Plymouth, but nonetheless gave permission. Duxbury was incorporated as a separate town in 1637. John Alden became one of the leading men of the new town of Duxbury and a key figure in the colony. He served as deputy from Duxbury to the General Court for most of the 1640s. Alden was one of Plymouth Colony's most active public servants and played a prominent role in colonial affairs. He was annually elected to the Governor's Council nearly every year from 1640 to 1686. He served as treasurer of Plymouth Colony, deputy to the General Court of Plymouth, a member of the colony's Council of War, and a member of the colony's Committee on Kennebec Trade, among other posts. He also served as deputy governor on 2 occasions in the absence of the governor in 1665 and 1677. John Alden was the last survivor of the signers of the Mayflower Compact. He died in Duxbury on September 12, 1687. Both he and his wife Priscilla were buried in the old burying ground in South Duxbury. The precise location of their graves is not known as markers either were not placed or have crumbled away.